Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
I'm Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern Time, and 2 p.m. on Saturday in Queensland, Australia. We're broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California. Thanks so much for joining us. Did you know it's National Radio Day?
Our guest tonight is Louisa Jenness, and we'll be back in 6.8 seconds. Okay, help us welcome Louisa Jenness this week as she tells us about the NASA project she was part of, speaking Mandarin in China and learning logic gates with knitting techniques.
And probably more. So, Jenna, please tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Louisa. I am from Boston. I am currently a junior studying electrical engineering at Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology, which is also in Boston. And I recently participated in a NASA program called NCAS, which is NASA Community Aerospace Scholars.
Oh, cool.
Yes. And it was a two-part program. The first part was 6 weeks long in January, and then some of the students were selected for a 10-day program over the summer, which was finished up at a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, awesome. All right. And you did something really cool with your project, and we have video, so when you're ready to show that, let me know, and I will run that. Tell us about what you did.
Okay, so we worked in teams of 10, and the project was that we had to design a mock mission to deep space. So we had to work with our team. We had to decide if we were going to go to the moon or to Mars, and we had a starting budget, and there were things that we could do to earn more money. But along the way, we had to purchase rocket parts, and we had to design scientific objectives and select the parts that would help us meet those objectives. So in addition to having a role that was related to STEM, I also got an artistic role, which was designing a banner with all of the rocket parts that we had purchased that sort of told the story of our mission. And being a fiber artist, it of course turned into an over-the-top fiber arts project.
Yes.
And this video is what came out of it.
Right, and this is about a minute long, so we'll be back. While it's running, you can't hear us, but we'll come back and we'll talk about it whenever it's done. All right, here it is. So that is very impressive to me because anybody can create beautiful things like that and relate it to science just like you did, right?
Yeah, people seem to think that art and STEM are sort of opposites or a really different skill set, but I've found that they aren't. They're pretty interrelated. And a lot of the skills that I've learned in art have carried over into my, work in STEM.
Yeah, I read your paper where you drew this whole parallel between knitting and logic gates. And you got to tell us more about that. That's so amazing. And just so you know, I have some images of logic gates for our audience to understand, what they look like and where they fit into the world of, electronics. It's basically controls of anything that has electronics in it. That's cell phones and TVs and gosh, anything. Oh, hello. We have a visitor. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan. So yes, beautiful and inspiring. I totally agree with you, Daniel. So tell us about what that drawing the parallel between knitting and logic gates.
Okay, so when I learned logic gates, I found them really confusing. I could not make heads or tails of it. It just didn't really seem to make, much sense to me. And the whole idea was that certain combinations of inputs create certain combinations of outputs depending on the logic gate. And with computers, it's either 1 or 0. So depending on the combination that goes in, either a 1 or a 0 comes out.
And let me show the things with that. So here are some of the symbols. And basically, they absolutely control every kind of electronics, and they're all based on, I knew the word before. Help me out, Louisa. Transistors. Transistors, that's the word. So these things, stop and start the flow of electricity kind of like a switch, but they're controlled electronically instead of mechanically like a switch might be. And let's see, I have a couple other things, and you'll see diagrams with all kinds of them together, and each one has a set of rules. Mm-hmm. And what you put in depends on what you get out, so, or the other way around. And I think I have one more here, and it basically gives you which ones and why, the what's of them, active if all the link triggers are active. And these are some great diagrams. You can just go looking for logic gate online, and you'll see something like this as well. All right, so let's get back to, where the heck is it? Oh, you got to help me out. Okay, hi, Chris. Sure, no, the other one. I'll get it. I have to figure out where I am again. Here we go.
There we go.
All right, back to us. Hey, Chris. Nice to join us. Thanks. So, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so what I noticed after, this was maybe the second week that I had been struggling through all of my homework with logic gates, was that the logic gates and knitting have something in common, and that's when you decrease in knitting, there are a zillion different ways to decrease. There's so many, I don't actually know them all off the top of my head, but they're either left-leaning or right-leaning. So if you look at like the shoulders of a sweater, you can see that there are lines that go up, and they make this nice, shape around the shoulders. And so if you decrease in the wrong direction, you get these funky twisted lines, and they look a little bit weird. Yeah. So I thought of, left-leaning and right-leaning as instead of 1s and 0s. And what I ended up doing was I turned my paper sideways and pretended like I was working up the side, the front of a sweater, doing the shoulder shaping. And that would lead me to my answer. And my answer, instead of being like a 1 or a 0, it was going to be a left or a right decrease. And that helped me sort of make sense of it, because knitting was something that I had been doing for years and years and years at this point. And it made a lot more sense that it had like a concrete structure, and that helped me, figure out how these things worked in terms of a computer and digital logic.
Right, and you know what? That's where innovation comes from, by mixing something that appears to be completely unrelated, like knitting. Who would think that? Of course, you did, and that's why we need, all kinds of different people and, places they come from and experiences they have to bring to bear what they learned into, really any environment, solving problems in space is just a really cool one. So yeah, tell us, how did you get involved with the NASA project?
So I got an email from my advisor at school, and he said that applications for this program were opening up and that we should apply. I had to write an application essay. I had to get a couple of letters of recommendation, and I was thinking to myself, this would be really cool, but I'm probably not going to get in because it's NASA and it's really, really competitive. And it wasn't just me, it was me and two other people from my school as well in different majors that also got in to at least
Nice.
the first. I'm not sure about the second part. The first part was a fairly self-paced, online learning thing. We had to watch videos, take notes, and then do quizzes. And the ending was we had to write a research paper, and they gave us, guidance on a variety of topics. And I wound up writing about habitation systems in the International Space System. So I wrote water filtration and exercise systems.
Thanks for joining us, David. So David Renning has a Renecke. How are we saying? I'm not speaking very well tonight. I'm so sorry.
That's my job.
You read it.
David says, very incisive, creative young lady. Just curious, what though is its relevance to astronomy, please?
Which part? The project, the NASA project? Is that what you're asking, David?
Yeah. David, you might have missed the video where she had a banner with where she did out a NASA mission in a banner. So just watch that.
In fiber arts.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's another video of the making of the video.
Yeah.
So you might see what we're talking about there.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, David. Really appreciate you being here. So, was there more you wanted to describe about the NASA project? I'm sorry, we had a question, so we wanted to answer.
Well, okay, so it was very interesting, and all throughout we got to hear from people who worked at NASA, people who were in internships at NASA, and all sorts of things. So it was really interesting, and people talked about a variety of topics that they had worked on. They worked at a bunch of different NASA centers and so on. So we got to hear from people who had worked on the Mars rover, the most recent one, and all sorts of other things. Various centers. And that was really interesting. It was also, I had never sort of worked on such a project with such similar restrictions. And it was really interesting to work with the budget restrictions that we had, because we were really worried about the budget all throughout. And then at the end, we realized that we had a whole bunch of leftover money and a whole bunch of leftover space on our rocket. So we bought like 5 or 6 different things on the very last night. So I was up really, really late, like embroidering all the cards to put on the the banner, because of course at the end you don't want to have leftover money, because then they say to you, well, why did you ask for this money if you didn't need it? And you don't want to have leftover space in your rocket, because why did you launch it into space if you had extra Space Force things to go on?
Sounds very realistic, actually.
Yeah, so at the end, my team was actually laughing about how realistic it was that we were like so concerned about the budget, and then we had to hurry up and spend everything at the end. So that was really interesting.
That is very real world.
Sounds amazing, though. I mean, that kind of experience would really serve you well in all kinds of ways, I think. I mean, even like a household budget, you need to understand the things you need and the money, and there's a lot that goes into it.
With a household budget, it's good to have money left over.
Yeah.
When you're working for the government, it's not.
And even jobs, if you don't use the budget for the department, next year they say, well, you don't need as much money, then they won't give it to you. So, yeah, it kind of works.
I mean, it was really interesting. So my team we decided to go to the moon. And
Good.
then
Cool.
yeah, we didn't go to Mars. And we decided to build a long-term human habitat on the moon.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
we mulled it over we spent so many hours talking about, we knew we didn't want the smallest rocket. So it was like the medium lift rocket or the heavy lift rocket. And we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for hours on like, do we stretch the budget and get the heavy lift rocket and put more stuff on it? Do we be really conservative and get the medium lift rocket, but maybe not, So we ended up going with the medium lift rocket, and it worked out really well. And we had plenty of space and plenty of stuff on it. We also had, if you notice in the video, there's over the card that said magnetometer, there was a giant X, and that happened on the
Yes.
last day. It said equipment failure. So we'd already purchased our science equipment, and then they sort of said to us, one of your science equipment is failed, but you don't get your money back because you've already paid for it, and you don't get the space back because you already put it on your rocket. So have fun with that. So we had to pick which one we wanted to fail, and that one was the sort of smaller, cheaper one. So we ended up picking that because the other one was like actually a huge. It was the life sciences laboratory. It was about growing plants in space, and that had taken up. That was quite an expense. So we picked the magnetometer, and my team was talking about, oh, just put an X over it on the banner, and I had worked so hard on that particular card. The X ended up over it, so I didn't have to X out my work. So it's still visible, but now there's a giant red X over it. So that's how that
So that's still amazing though, because all that work you put into it, and then to have it fail, that also sounds very realistic to me. I mean, think about all the NASA scientists who did, and in fact, the Mars rover, we got to see that a lot because we actually live pretty close to JPL. So
yeah,
go ahead.
we got a couple of wild cards. The other one was on a different day, but it said that we had a rocket test failure. So I had to make an additional card for that, and and I think it cost us like $5 or $10 million, and we were all joking about how unrealistic it was because it would have been billion instead of million. So we also had that one, and then we had the equipment failure, and then I think that was the only two wild cards that we got. But.
Got it. Okay. So when we were talking in preparation for our show tonight, you mentioned some things about learning Mandarin and going to China. I think that's fascinating, and I think our audience would like to hear about that too. So, and by the way, hi Cliff, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Cliff and David are both in Australia, so we really like having them here with us. But yeah, tell us about China and learning Mandarin and all that stuff you were telling me about.
Okay, so this electrical engineering degree is actually my second bachelor's degree. My first one, it's my round 2 in college. I was very fortunate. I went to public schools all through high school, but the public school that I happened to go to had a Mandarin program from first grade to 6th grade. We had to take Mandarin. So I started learning Mandarin when I was 6. And then starting in 7th grade, we had a choice between Mandarin and Spanish, and I stuck with Mandarin. And then high school, we had a choice of like 5 or 6 different languages. And I again took Mandarin. So by the time I was done with high school, I was pretty solid in my Mandarin. And then I went to college, and they had a Mandarin program, so I kept going.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was at a very small liberal arts college, Marlborough College in Marlborough, Vermont, which has unfortunately recently sort of closed and merged with Emerson College in Boston. But they had a sort of self-designed thesis, so you self-directed. And I ended up deciding that I wanted to do some translation. I also picked up some Arabic. Towards the end of high school, I decided I wanted to learn Arabic. I taught myself how to read and write. And then I finally was able to get a teacher once I was in college and did some Arabic translation. So my undergraduate thesis was translation of Mandarin and Arabic. I spent a little bit of time in China doing some environmental studies with a grant from my college. And then I thought that was going to be what I wanted to do for a career, and there were a variety of reasons why it didn't work out. So I worked for several years after graduating, and then I wanted to do something else. I decided it wasn't going anywhere. I needed to pick a different career path, and I picked electrical engineering, and here I am now.
Well, and you said something about like some upper level test in China you took that I was like, oh my God.
So the test itself I took in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's called the Hanyu Shaping Kaosha, which is like the Chinese level test, basically. And there's 6 levels, and I passed level 6, so it's like indicates a solid level of proficiency. Yeah, but it didn't turn into a career path, and there's a few reasons for that, but which is fine. I found it useful in very random situations, because no one expects that you can speak. People like expect that you can speak Spanish or something, but they don't expect that you can. When someone's on the train and they're Chinese and they're trying to figure out where they're going and they have no idea, and you can say, hey, you're going, this is how you get there. People don't expect that, so it's been really useful in very strange situations that come up.
And now that the Chinese have made a serious commitment to going to space, putting a space station, heading to the moon, I mean, do they all speak Mandarin? Is that the typical language for the Chinese space program or something? I mean, could you like merge these things together into a career option?
Possibly. So Mandarin is also known as Putonghua, which is like the sort of, yeah, it's like what the government speaks Mandarin.
Okay.
So the writing system in China, they all use the same character system, but each dialect pronounces those characters differently. So if if you find someone who speaks a different dialect and you really don't understand what they're saying, you can write notes, but you can't speak through the
okay.
So,
was there a question from Autumn Splash?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about rogue planets, and can we see rogue planets using a telescope?
Probably not. It's like, looking at a rock out in the dark.
Yeah.
Can you see a rock in your backyard?
With the lights off? Yeah.
Yeah, when it's nighttime? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that, they're pretty far away too, I think. Thanks for joining us though, Splash Autumn. We really like seeing you here and love your questions.
Yeah.
Always very intriguing. Yeah,
the thing about a rogue planet is it's zipping around between stars, which means it's in the dark.
Yep, it's really in the dark.
Small. It's small and space is big.
And
very big.
They can be very far away. So yeah, it's really hard to know anything about a rogue planet. So, all right, Louisa, is there anything else that? Oh, we haven't shown your website yet. I know you can be found on several different places. Let me just run through them here. You've got an Etsy shop, right? And then there's a Facebook page and an Instagram page, right?
Yes, those are where I can be found. I'm most active on Facebook.
Most active on Facebook. Okay. And I'm going to also, I can copy paste it here into the chat. So they might be clickable if I put them in the, let's see. They will be? Okay. Good. Oh, hi, David. Oh, that's a good question. So those are the links, people.
Louisa, this is from David. Is there some connection to ancestry artwork in your concepts, designs, or is this something that you have created? It seems very unique, to be sure.
Totally unique.
So, I After I created the banner, I sent it to the director of this program. This story has a point. I sent it to the director of the program, and I told her that I wanted her to use it in some sort of outreach or attracting more artists and stuff like that.
Cool.
I wrote up this thing which I sent to Pam about a little bit about how I think about art in relation to STEM. And it took me it was only about a page and like maybe a paragraph after, with some images into it. And it took me about almost 2 weeks to write it because I started thinking about my design process, and it's extremely hard for me to describe. I think part of the reason for that is that I spend so many hours doing it, and I've been doing it for so long that it's kind of like speaking your native language, that it's hard to describe how exactly you learn to do it because you don't remember.
Well, and then there's some studies involving the brain, and maybe you've heard of a book. It's called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And she is an artist. She's actually out here in Southern California and has been involved with brain studies too. And she uses what's called R mode and L mode. And L mode is like language and math and, you know, letters, that kind of thing. But R mode has more to do with art and flowing, and it's much harder to actually, you know, describe to people. In fact, if you start describing something while you're like, let's say you're training people how to paint, and you're standing at your easel and you're doing stuff and you're trying to describe it, at some point you may in fact stop describing it because you're in the flow, which is R mode for art, and it's, you know, sort of opposite L mode. And there's parts of the brain, you know, both sides of the hemisphere of the brain are involved with both. But she describes it as R mode and L mode. And, you know, it's very hard. Like even when you're driving, it's hard to talk because driving is so R mode and talking is so L mode. And if you do talk, you might actually stop focusing as much on driving and be kind of distracted. It can be a problem. I've done that. But yeah, so I think that's what you're describing. It's a wonderful book.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. I will say that my grandmother taught me how to knit. I was about 9 or 10 years old. I'm not entirely sure how old I was, which means that this is now this is now about 19 years of knitting for me.
Yeah.
And then I learned how to crochet in a yarn store in Portland, Maine. My grandmother didn't know how to crochet. My mother didn't know how to crochet. So I passed by a yarn store and I said, I wonder if they can take 5 minutes and teach me. And they told me it would take longer than 5 minutes. It took not that long, but crocheting is a little bit different. A lot of the stuff that I do actually is crochet because it's quite a bit faster than knitting. But so I've been crocheting since I was about 15 or 16. So yarn is really my primary medium in that.
Very cool. So I think we have some more comments. Was Daniel's? Those are mine. Yeah.
Well, let's see. There was this one. Splash, can rogue planets have life?
Great question. I have no idea, but I suspect they could.
They could, but it would probably be dormant since they're between stars. They're very cold. I can't imagine anything.
Well, tardigrades, they survive practically anything.
Right, but they survive by being desiccated and, and frozen. But and then Daniels said that infrared radio astronomy would be the best bet for dark object spotting. Yeah. Except that, you know, anything out there between stars is going to be pretty cold. And then Splash, what are your thoughts about the NASA James Webb telescope? It's said to be the most powerful telescope. What can we see and discover with it? Well, it is an infrared telescope.
James Webb, is that the new one? Okay, yeah, that's gonna tell us a lot. We're gonna learn a real lot from that particular telescope. Yeah.
It's gonna be able to see through dust clouds partly.
Which is really important.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a couple more, right?
Yep. David has one for you.
There we go.
You are fluent in in Mandarin. I only asked because your art seems to have a definite Eastern aspect. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not. If you could specify what you mean specifically with that. Actually, funny story was because I said I learned Chinese first and then I switched over to Arabic, and starting to learn Arabic was a bit of a struggle because my brain was like, not English, not English, not English, not English. And what's the second easiest thing for me to do besides English was Chinese. So my Arabic teachers told me on several occasions that I speak Arabic with a slight Chinese accent.
That's fascinating because I thought accent was the sound of it, like having lived someplace. How interesting!
I don't speak Arabic in any way, nearly good enough to be able to like distinguish an accent. But this is what I was told a couple of times by my Arabic teachers.
That's wild. Interesting. And yeah, we had at least one more, right?
Daniel has a question for you. Which Star Trek music was that in your Fabric banner video?
That was the Voyager theme song, and I was mulling it over, and it came down to the Voyager or Deep Space Nine theme song, and my team voted for the Voyager theme song.
Got it. Okay. And I think we have at least one more, right?
First one from David. Just rogue planets are no different to ordinary captured planets. No reason life cannot exist on them, except that it's really cold.
Well,
really dark.
But if they have, like we have in the middle of the ocean, they think life may have originated there, even with or without the sun. It might have happened.
Right, until the planet cools enough. Yeah. So, and maybe we call you a Mandarin American.
That's not right.
And what else? I thought I saw another one there. Yeah. Never.
Nice, Daniel. That's really nice.
Okay. I told you they were a lively crowd. So I think, good choice. Yeah, good choice. I think I would like to run your making of the banner now. And just so you know, Louisa, we didn't talk about this before. We kind of have a wrap-up part 2, and we'll answer questions, of course. But we have, like, the things you can see in the night sky, and we talk about the next guest kind of thing. But let me run your video real quick. And this is about 17 seconds, folks. And this is the making of the video of the banner. Yeah. Here we go.
They made videos in the olden days. Probably. Almost done. I think the other one that we did was better, but I think that's good. I need to go.
What I absolutely love about this is, you got to solve problems, and sometimes you come up with innovative solutions. And I don't know, tell people what you were doing there, because it's not exactly clear all the little pieces of it.
All right, so as you can see, that banner, I never ended up measuring it, but it was like 10 or 11 feet long, maybe by the end. So it was like, yeah, it was crazy. What I ended up doing was I glued 2 like tabs onto one of the ends, and I was gonna ask my mom to just like walk backwards and sort of drag it. And that did not work out. It was so jerky and awful, and I was like, okay, this isn't working. So then we ended up putting some tape around the tabs that I ended up, it was because it was the bending over process and also walking backwards without making a really motion. So we put some tape between that and ended up taping the like part of the vacuum cleaner. I don't know what the part's called. The tabs that I had glued onto the end. So she was walking backwards with that thing taped and it made it much smoother. But then it was going crooked and like out of the shot. So then we put the tracks on the floor and that's how we shot the video. So we did about 20 or 25 takes to get it right. It took a while.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
I didn't think it was going to take that many takes. And then you can hear in the background my mom's dog barking his head off because when he was allowed out, he kept on walking all over the banner. Some of the dog hair that you can see on the banner in the video is courtesy of Charlie, my mom's dog.
So we got another question. Kishore, I can't read it.
It says, hi, Pam, Jeff, and Louisa. How are you all? My question to Jeff, why other stars have more mass than our sun?
Oh.
Just because it's all pretty random how much mass they get. And our sun was closer to other stars that blew away some of the dust. Other stars that are farther away can collect more dust before it gets blown away. And so some of them have 3, 4, up to 10 times our mass or more.
Lots, yeah.
Yeah, there are some really big stars out there. But the bigger the star, the quicker it goes out. So
okay. So it says a shorter lifespan, in other words,
so
right?
Our star is one of the longer lived ones.
Yeah, like billions of years what is it? Like it's going to be some 10 to 20 billion years old eventually. Like it'll live that long, I think.
We've got at least 14 billion years left on it.
Cool. Okay.
So why there seems to be, this is from Splash Autumn, why there seems to be a supermassive black hole at the galactic nucleus? Well, current theory is that there's a black hole at the heart of every galaxy, and that's why galaxies form. They're just basically the accretion disk of the black hole.
Yeah.
David, Louisa, what sort of people buy your work? Just curious. Is it mum for kids or ? And do you sell worldwide with this concept?
So all sorts of people buy my work. I do a lot of custom stuff. So if you have an idea and you want it created in yarn, I can work with that. I do, since I'm obviously a huge nerd, I started off doing like science fiction conventions and comic conventions, and that's what I love doing. I do some craft fairs, some local craft fairs as well, but the people that I sell to is all sorts of people. I don't really say that there's one specific demographic that purchases my stuff.
That's awesome. Great. And I saw some more over there too, I think, right?
And this is David adding on to what I said to Kishore. Basically, big and small stars are like having big and small people.
Yep.
Our sun is
5 billion left. Okay. Thanks, David. Appreciate that.
I think it's 5 billion that we have left, but the sun will last longer, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's about 5 billion until it expands enough that we have a really bad day.
I don't think we'll notice.
You're welcome, Kishore.
Awesome. All right. So you're very welcome to ask some more questions. And Louisa, we encourage you to hang around for that. We do want to get to the things that you can see in the night sky this week. That's going to be August 20th to August 27th. And it's a light week again. On the 22nd is the full sturgeon moon. And also Jupiter and the moon are in conjunction. So you're going to want to look east at sunset to see Jupiter and the moon rising together. They're both easily seen at naked eye. On August the 23rd, Neptune and the moon are in conjunction. Again, you'll look east about an hour after sunset. And while the moon is easy to see naked eye Neptune requires optical aid. And then we're back to Friday, August the 27th, which is our Friday night show. Chris Kent will be our guest. Chris is in the audience today. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris. And you can find us on Everyday Spacer, the Facebook page, and on the Everyday Spacer YouTube channel. And we encourage you, if you or someone you know has done something interesting like Louisa has, involving space exploration, science, astronomy, stuff like that, we would love to share our live. So like I said, next Friday, August 27th, Chris will be with us. He is involved with Earth Farms and space science. And we've got a few more people that we're talking to. In fact, Dr. Adam Dippert, also known as the Space Juggler, is going to be with us on September the 10th. And we're talking to Greg Allison, Tim Pickens, John Keppel, Chelsea Good, and Don Dowdy. So if you want to add your name to that auspicious list, absolutely. We would love to see you there. Last call for questions. You see anything else there, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, lots.
Oh, good. Yay.
David, heck no.
For president.
Heck no.
That would make a strange world.
Okay, Cliff, I don't know if I buy that only 1.5 billion for the sun to start to grow. Maybe for it to start to grow, but I think we've got longer until it's really bad for us. Splash, what are the best websites, etc., to know for? This is kind of your.
So, you know what might be really helpful, Splash Autumn? Try a website that's SkyMaps.com. That's SKYMAPS.com. We should do a whole show about that. I mean, that would be great because it's a wonderful free tool. You can get one every single month, and it's for Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. They have equator, and it's basically got 2 pages. You've got some. We got to do a show about it. Thanks so much for bringing that up. I think that will make a great show to tell you all about it and describe, what it is and what the things you can do with it, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Did we have some more?
Just Chris.
Yeah, Chris, that's going to be the person we're going to talk to next week. I can't wait. Yeah. It's going to be wonderful. We'll keep you posted, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Louisa, anything else you want to share with us? You can say no. That's cool.
I think I'm okay unless you want to. Oh, well, I have a little astronaut.
Oh yeah, right. We forgot.
Almost forgot about this. Okay, so I've got this little astronaut guy, and then I have here a small rocket, and it unbuttons, and the astronaut can go inside, and he can go on a mission. Oops. So that's one of the little STEM things that I have made. Let's see. I also have these little guys that are Yoda, and those are pretty popular. So, if anyone, yeah. So that was just a couple of things that I wanted to show.
Great, and you created all of those. Was that crochet? You crocheted those, right?
Yeah, they were both crocheted. Actually, here's an example of left and right. Well, these are all. Let's see, these are all left-leaning decreases, but that's what those decreases look like. That's on top of a Star Trek hat, and that is knitting.
Way cool. I love that. Those are very, very fun. It looks like we have some more, maybe? No? Yep. Yes?
Splash. Adam, can we create artificial black holes? Is it possible?
Whew.
If we can, what can we learn about it?
Wow.
think we've had a go at it. I don't know if we've actually done it. But if we do, they'll be really, really, really small, and they'll evaporate and go away real fast.
Yeah, that sounds actually like something that has happened already.
Yeah, like in really small fractions of a second is how long they'd last.
Yeah, I think that's, and we got at least one more, right?
Yeah, just David saying, "Bye, Lou. We love you here in Aussie."
Aww.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, David, and thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, let her do it, Cliff.
Sure. I don't know anything about it. All right, so thanks so much, Kishore and Cliff and David and Splash and Chris and who else was here tonight?
Sure.
Yes, I think I said Kishore, but I think there's one more comment from Kishore.
Yeah.
Daniel Tweet was here too. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you showing up for these shows, and we really have a lot of fun sharing our guests and citizen science and your comments and questions like this one.
Kishore,
Betelgeuse,
I've heard that about the Betelgeuse star. It's the brightest star in our solar system. When will the supernova occur? I don't know.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I think they decided some things about that. It's still gonna be a long time coming.
Yeah. Short astronomically, but long time for us.
Right. Yeah. And David.
Yeah, good chat.
Thanks, David. We really love having you here too. We really enjoyed you, Louisa. And you know what? You can come back someday. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very nice having you. Oh yeah, one more from David.
Oh.
What?
He's talking about Betelgeuse.
Oh, okay.
Just don't say the name 3 times.
Please. Alrighty, folks. See you next week. We'll talk to Chris then, and have a great time between now and then.